This incredible photograph, taken in 1964, captures a moment that speaks to human ambition and unity. What you see are the 3,000 men who helped build the Chase Manhattan Bank in New York City, standing on the very skeleton they raised with their own hands. Imagine the roar of the city below, the smell of steel and concrete, and the dizzying height where one wrong step could mean disaster. These workers weren't just building a bank. They were building a symbol of power and progress in a city reaching for the sky. Every floor, every beam, every bolt represents risk, sweat, and courage. Today, we marvel at the finished skyline, but rarely do we stop to think about the human effort that made it possible. This photo freezes that reality forever, a steel monument not just to architecture, but to the people who dared to climb and dream. This photo, taken in 1933, marks a chilling turning point in world history. Sitting in the same car are two men whose paths could not have been more different. President Paul von Hindenburg, a decorated war hero and symbol of the old German order, and beside him, a rising political figure who had just secured the title of Chancellor, Adolf Hitler. To the crowd, this image seemed like a symbol of unity, but behind the smiles, the balance of power was already shifting. Within months, democracy would collapse, and a regime of absolute control would take its place. This photograph is more than a moment. It's a warning frozen in time. A reminder of how quickly nations can fall when fear, crisis, and ambition converge. This photo takes us back to 1894, to what is considered the very first organized automobile race in history, the Paris-Rouen competition. At a time when cars were a novelty and most people still relied on horses, these machines seemed like science fiction on wheels. Albert Lemaitre, seen here in his Peugeot, wasn't just driving, he was making history. The rules? Speed wasn't the only goal. The car had to be safe, practical, and easy to operate. The journey covered over 120 kilometers on rough, unpaved roads, and each kilometer tested both man and machine. This was the dawn of a revolution that would transform the way we live, work, and connect. From this moment on, the world would never move at the same pace again. Captured in 1936, this image freezes a moment from one of the toughest sporting events ever created, the Tour de France. Back then, the roads were brutal, the bicycles had no advanced gears, and riders faced grueling stages stretching hundreds of kilometers without the modern support teams we know today. Cyclists battled exhaustion, unpredictable weather, and the sheer force of nature with nothing but determination and raw courage. There were no energy gels, no high-tech gear. Just grit and willpower. This race wasn't just about speed, it was about survival. Every turn of the pedals in 1936 shaped the legend of a competition that would become one of the greatest spectacles in the world of sports. Looking at this photo, you can almost feel the sweat, the pain, and the unbreakable spirit that defined an era. This rare photo from 1959 captures two of the most iconic figures of the Cuban Revolution, Fidel Castro and Camilo Cienfuegos, not in a battlefield, but on a baseball field. Their team's name? Los Barbudos, a playful nod to the bearded rebels who had just toppled Batista's regime. Baseball wasn't just a game in Cuba, it was a symbol of national pride, and here, it became a tool of propaganda, showing the new leaders as men of the people. But behind the smiles and the gloves, history was in motion. Decisions were being made that would redefine Cuba's future, its politics, and its place in the world. This moment freezes the contrast between light-hearted camaraderie and the weight of revolutionary power. A snapshot of leaders who, in this instant, look like ordinary players, while quietly shaping the destiny of a nation. What you're looking at isn't a construction site, it's gardening on a whole new level. This photograph, taken in 1962, captures workers trimming the tallest yew hedge in the world. Just look at those ladders, stretching several meters high, leaning at sharp angles, with nothing but steady hands and nerves of steel keeping these men from a dangerous fall. In an age before modern safety standards and power tools, this was pure skill and precision. These hedges weren't just plants. They were living walls, symbols of elegance for grand estates, demanding maintenance that pushed human limits. Imagine balancing up there for hours, with shears in hand, knowing one wrong move could mean disaster. It's a reminder of how much dedication and ingenuity went into even the simplest tasks in the past, transforming something as ordinary as a hedge into an extraordinary feat of human effort. Picture this. It's the 1940s, the world is at war, and every drop of gasoline matters. On the streets of New York City, these women became an unexpected symbol of resilience and creativity. With smiles on their faces and skates on their feet, they weren't just having fun, they were making a statement. The sign says it all. Do your bit. Skate to work. Save gas. During World War II, fuel rationing changed daily life, and communities were urged to find clever ways to conserve resources. Roller skating to work wasn't just practical, it became a patriotic act. Imagine the clatter of wheels on the pavement echoing through the city, turning an ordinary commute into a bold gesture of support for the war effort. It's a glimpse of a time when sacrifice and innovation rolled hand in hand, literally. She was called the most beautiful woman in the world, but beauty was only the surface. Behind those glamorous roles in Hollywood, Hedy Lamarr was hiding a mind years ahead of its time. In the early 1940s, as World War II raged, she wasn't content with just watching from the sidelines. Alongside composer George Antheil, she developed a revolutionary technology called frequency hopping, a system designed to prevent enemy forces from jamming torpedo signals. Her idea? Spread the signal across multiple frequencies, making it nearly impossible to intercept. Sounds familiar? That concept later became the foundation for Wi-Fi, GPS, and Bluetooth. So next time you connect to the internet without wires, remember this photograph. It's not just an actress at a desk. It's a genius rewriting the future in secret, at a time when the world only saw her face, not her brilliance. April 23, 1916. Deep in the Russian Empire, a shocking photo captures a medical breakthrough, or pure torture disguised as science. This soldier isn't drinking water. He's being forced to swallow castor oil in massive doses to cure alcoholism. Authorities believed this brutal purge would cleanse the body and erase the craving for alcohol. The truth? It caused unbearable pain, dehydration, and humiliation, turning treatment into punishment. Look closely. The officer calmly smokes a cigarette, pouring the thick oil as the man's face twists in dread. This was not medicine. This was control, enforced under the shadow of war. Imagine the fear, the desperation, your dignity stripped away in the name of sobriety. Today, this haunting image reminds us how far we've come, and how far we can fall when desperation replaces compassion. 1942. In the chaos of World War II, the Polish army adopted one of the most unusual soldiers in history, a bear named Wojciech. What started as a tiny orphan cub, rescued in Iran, soon grew into a 500-pound beast, marching alongside men, sharing their rations, and even drinking beer like one of them. But here's the twist. Wojciech wasn't just a mascot. He carried live ammunition during the brutal Battle of Monte Cassino, fearlessly delivering crates under fire. Soldiers swore he understood the danger and kept going. When the war ended, this bear didn't return to the wild. He retired as a decorated war hero, a bear with a service number, rank, and a story that still defies belief. In a world of destruction, he became a symbol of loyalty and survival. 1927. Picture this. The Tour de France, one of the toughest races on Earth. Riders push through mountains, blistering heat, and endless roads. Yet here they are, casually smoking cigarettes while pedaling. Sounds insane, right? But back then, nicotine was believed to open up the lungs and give riders an edge. These men weren't just athletes. They were daredevils on two wheels, risking everything for glory. Today, sports science would call this madness, but in the roaring 20s, it was the norm. Imagine racing hundreds of miles fueled by nothing but grit and smoke. A different era, a different idea of endurance. Imagine venturing deep into the jungles of Central America in the late 1800s and stumbling upon this. A colossal stone, carved with symbols older than any empire you've ever known. This is not just a rock. It's a Mayan zoomorphic altar, a sacred object believed to connect the living with the gods. Every intricate detail tells a story of power, sacrifice, and devotion. Think about it. These carvings were made centuries before modern machines, crafted by human hands with nothing but primitive tools and relentless faith. This altar wasn't a decoration. It was the center of life and death ceremonies, where priests sought favor from forces beyond this world. For the Maya, this wasn't just art. It was survival. It was destiny. And today, as it rests in silence, it reminds us of a truth we often forget. Civilizations rise and fall, but their voices still echo through stone. Take a closer look at this photograph. At first glance, it seems ordinary, just an old man enjoying a quiet moment, pipe in hand. But this is no ordinary man. This is Albert Einstein, the mind that redefined the universe. It's 1945. The world is still trembling after the most destructive war in history, and Einstein's name is forever tied to one of its darkest creations, the atomic bomb. But here, in this simple frame, there's no sign of that burden. Just a warm smile, a calm presence, and the spark of a man who gave us relativity. What was he thinking in this moment? Relief that the war was over? Regret for the knowledge that changed humanity? This photo freezes a paradox, a genius celebrated for unlocking the secrets of the cosmos, yet haunted by the power those secrets unleashed. Sometimes, history hides in the quietest moments, and this one speaks louder than words. Take a good look at this photo. At first glance, she doesn't look like what we imagine today as a beauty queen. No glittering crown, no glamorous gown, just a young woman in a simple skirt, standing awkwardly against a wooden backdrop. Yet in 1921, in France, she was celebrated as a symbol of beauty and grace. This image captures more than a contest. It reveals how radically beauty standards have changed in just a century. No filters, no Photoshop, no social media pressure, just raw authenticity. She represents an era when elegance was about simplicity, when charm came from character, not perfection. So, what does this say about us today? Have we lost that sense of genuine beauty? Or are we still chasing something that doesn't really exist? Sometimes, the past doesn't just show us where we came from. It forces us to question where we're going. This photograph looks like a scene from a disaster movie, but it's real. Paris, 1895. A train crashes through the Montparnasse station, bursts through the wall, and plunges into the street below. Hundreds of bystanders froze in shock as the massive locomotive dangled from the edge like a broken toy. What caused this? A single missed break. One tiny human error turned an ordinary day into chaos. Miraculously, most passengers survived, but the image became a chilling reminder of the cost of speed, progress, and trust in machines. Today, when technology controls almost everything in our lives, this photo still asks the same haunting question: how safe are we really? What you're looking at is the Olympic swimming pool of 1912, and yes, it's outdoors, surrounded by wooden bleachers and festive flags. There were no heated lanes, no starting blocks, not even the modern swimwear we see today. These were the Stockholm Games, where athletes swam in icy cold water, with the crowd packed in their best hats and suits, cheering from the edge. This moment captured an era when the Olympics were about raw determination, not billion-dollar sponsorships. It makes you wonder, have we lost something in the name of progress? Or would you dare to dive into these waters for glory? Imagine this. Two of the greatest minds in psychology, Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, sitting quietly after a sauna session in 1907. No lecture halls, no analytical debates, just raw humanity and exhaustion on a wooden porch. These men shaped the way we understand the mind, yet here they are, stripped of titles and theories, seeking the same simple relief we all crave. What do you think they talked about in this moment? The unconscious mind, dreams, or perhaps nothing at all? Sometimes, even geniuses need silence to think. September 18th, 1910, two presidents, two nations, one historic moment. On the left, José Figueroa Alcorta of Argentina. On the right, Emiliano Figueroa of Chile. They walked side by side during Chile's centennial celebrations, a time when both countries sought unity, not war. Just a decade earlier, these nations stood on the brink of conflict. Now, their leaders moved in harmony under the solemn glow of candles. Behind those calm faces lay the weight of history. Decisions that shaped an entire continent. A rare image of peace in an era where diplomacy was as fragile as glass. Step into Chile. The year is 1901. This isn't just a photo. It's a window into a life of resilience. Look closely. A humble cobbler working by the doorway, surrounded by his family. No flashy storefronts, no modern machines, just raw craftsmanship and survival. Every strike of the hammer echoes the struggle and hope of an era where every pair of shoes meant food on the table. In those faces, you see more than poverty. You see pride, determination, and a fight to keep dignity alive. Today, we call them simple times, but for them, it was everything. Would you trade your world for theirs, even for a day?